Welcome. Welcome, my friend.
Hey,
I'm happy you're joining us here today.
it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, you know.
Welcome, everyone, hopefully. All of our wonderful students, pupils, acolytes, and the ilk, to another wonderful episode of the Arcane Archive.
Arcane
Uh,
Archive!
we are delving into, I'd say, one of our favorite things to do on this channel as of late. What are we doing today, Adam?
Oh, my dear beloved Sammy, I do believe we're having another incredible episode of the Cautionary Chronicles.
Yeah,
Oh
we
yeah.
are. We are. We have a good smattering of stories again today. Nothing too egregious, I think. A lot
No, overall,
of
I think it's a lot of a great like conversational
yeah,
talking.
that's
You know, that we like to touch upon, that we like to interact with. We might have one particular one that could be a little controversial, maybe a little kind of definitely a hot button topic in today's current culture and zeitgeist, to be
it's
certain.
definitely been our I would say our preference as of late as opposed to the super inappropriate gross stuff.
Yeah, yeah. You know, we've what can we say? Maybe we've grown a little bit, evolved, dare I say, as individuals to something a little bit more sophisticated topics that we like to
Yeah.
discuss. We like to create a discourse in order to further our psychological and physiological and sophistication evolution. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but no, I think we've definitely moved more towards stuff we like talking about as opposed to just cringy,
Yeah, just
horrible stuff.
hey, hey, sometimes we might get kind of
We
go back
still
to
hey
that
we
here or
hey we dip
there.
in the
You know what
pot
I
still.
mean? Like,
There's
'cause sometimes people just
there's
like that
no
that good old fashioned
there's
spine powdering cringe. You
there's no
know?
completely getting away from it. Yeah, from what I remember from last week, we had a couple moments of just like,
Here
what
or
the
there, you know, and like I said, we
you
might
know.
dip, we like to dip and dabble here or there
Yeah,
with
yeah,
it,
yeah.
right?
I just put my big toe in,
Yeah,
see
just a
what it's
little
like
bit,
in
and then
there.
I dunk him fully in, and then I
Yeah,
jump in with
yeah,
him, you know?
yeah. He drowns me almost. It's
Yes, yes, and cringe, delicious, succulent cringe.
yeah, but we before I get into our first story of today, just want to remind if you like what we do here, please leave a comment or a like or subscribe. I hate asking, but also it'd be cool to have people to respond to this kind of stuff.
Yeah, right.
So if this is something that's up your alley, or even if you've been watching and never commented before, please do. We appreciate any kind of interaction.
Helps us out a lot,
Um,
actually.
because at the end of the day, it's what's fun.
Hmm.
But I won't bog down with that too much. And I'll get started with our first story if that's okay with you, Adam.
Please begin, Samuel. We're all waiting with bated breath.
Oh, wonderful. I have our first story is a bit of a opinionated piece
Bit of a hot
about
button
something.
topic,
Yeah, I
you
would
know,
say,
these days.
especially with some accusations of some recent book covers going around.
Mm.
This is game ended before it even started due to AI opinions by Koopa-kun. That's not a good name.
Koopa-coon.
That's bad. Uh,
I kind of like it.
it
It's
is.
problematic in certain aspects, but it also rolls off the tongue quite
It
well. You
does.
can't deny it.
It
You
could
can't.
definitely be a Super Mario enemy.
I mean, hey, or a South Park character as well.
Yes. Um, this was one of those games that got disbanded before even reaching session one. Those are pretty common, but this one in particular ended because of an argument over AI stuff.
Oh boy.
Now, this is mostly about how emotional people got during the argument, but I'm not going to make this post about whether AI is good or bad. I have my own opinions on AI, mostly negative, especially when it comes to AI art. But when it comes to a hobby like TTRPGs, my opinions are a bit centrist. You'll see
Mhm.
what I mean in a bit. If my opinions annoy you, I'm sorry. With that out of the way, here's the story. We, a group of three players and a DM, were going to play a sci-fi setting using a system agnostic game. We picked, oh, okay. So no gods. We picked very wacky characters, since the system allows us to create strange creatures, perfect for non-humanoid alien species. One of the players said that since our characters were so weird, there was arguably no existing artwork that could represent them, so he suggested using AI-generated images for our PC's portraits. I said I didn't have a problem with that. He could use them as placeholders, and once we got a couple of sessions in and had a better feel for the characters, I could draw a proper portrait myself.
Hmm.
The DM, however, didn't want us to use AI at all. They insisted we should get art from real artists. I replied that was completely fair, but pointed out that it's sometimes hard to find someone to do art, and it can feel like a waste of money if the game suddenly ends after just a session or two. Foreshadowing. I added that it's not being used for profit and it's just for a hobby. It shouldn't be a big issue. Then the other player chimed in with their own opinions about AI. I didn't agree with everything they said, but I didn't want to add fuel to the fire, so I stayed quiet. The DM then started expressing their own views, and the back and forth escalated. It got pretty tense. Eventually, the DM started throwing insults at the other player. Oh, then at me, saying I was also a part of the problem. It turned
Mm.
into a full blown shouting match, people talking over each other, yelling, complete chaos. Then everything went quiet. We all suddenly realized how far the voice chat had devolved. After a few seconds of silence, the DM said they needed to calm down and left the call. That left the other two players and me still in the chat, in silence. It was extremely awkward. No one wanted to say anything. Eventually, the other player that was arguing broke the silence with a F this and left the server. I was left with the remaining player. Well, that happened, he said. The DM eventually returned and asked where the other player had gone. We told them he bailed. The DM tried to talk him into coming back, but it seemed like he had blocked all of us. The DM then said, well, that's fine. He seemed like he was going to be a problem player anyway. I think I have a friend who'd like to join. They didn't seem to take any accountability for what had just happened, which made me uncomfortable, to be honest. The friend the DM wanted to invite couldn't join, so the DM said they'd just post another ad on LFG. At that point, I really didn't feel like continuing, so I apologized and I told the DM I didn't feel like playing anymore. I excused myself from the group. They seemed to respect my decision and didn't pressure me to come back. I don't know if leaving was too drastic, but I felt really uncomfortable, especially because the DM had also come at me for my opinions, even though I had only shared them once and stayed out of the argument while the player and the DM were throwing their tantrums. Maybe I dodged a bullet. Maybe I didn't need to leave. Who knows? TLDR, the group fell apart before the first session due to heated argument about using AI generated art, escalating into insults and ultimately causing two players, me included, to leave and the game to dissolve. Edit. A very long one because I just can't be brief. Sorry, I'm not very good at this. Okay, I feel like I need to make an edit to clarify the events that happened. Not really adding new stuff, just explaining things in more detail. To start, I'm not going to read all of this because it's not needed, but
Fair enough.
well, I maybe we'll see.
We'll see how relevant it all is as he's going.
The
Like,
game we were playing had a lot of options for character creation. The DM encouraged but didn't force us to create very unique looking characters and avoid typical humanoid aliens. No elves, orcs, humans, lizard folk, etc. I don't remember the name of the game. It was one of those indie titles published as a PDF on itch.io. But to give you an idea, the character creation was kind of like Open Legend. For example, the system allowed me to pick attributes and feats to flavor my character as a giant direwolf-sized tarantula, who is also a barbarian grappler with area denial abilities.
okay.
We were talking about our character concepts in the group chat before the session zero. The AI player characters, class-wise, was pretty standard, a divination wizard, but flavored as an extra-dimensional being who could see the past, present, and future all at once. I think he based his character on an SCP, but I'm not that familiar with him, so I didn't fully get it. I could sort of compare it to Darkseid in concept, a powerful entity in his home dimension
Hmm.
that could only project a nerfed avatar into the one we were playing in. It was
Interesting.
really weird to describe. The AI player was saying stuff like, it's not really a being, more of a concept, or its present reflects a fractal, and that's how people perceive it. Very abstract. I didn't fully get it. It was all just very strange. By session zero, we were all in voice chat talking about our characters and the setting. Eventually, the AI player brought up that he probably wouldn't be able to find art that really captured his concept, and mentioned he might use AI generated art. To be honest, I kind of doubted AI could pull off whatever the hell he had in mind, but I told him I didn't have a problem. He could use it as a placeholder. And once we had a few sessions and a better sense of the character, I could draw something for him. The DM said not to use AI at all because they were against it. I said that was completely fair, but added it might be a waste to commission something before session one. My brain immediately jumped to paid commissions because for a character concept that weird, it felt like the most realistic way to get accurate art. But I wasn't saying it was the only option, just the first thing I mentioned. We didn't get a chance to clarify much because right after that, the shitstorm happened. One thing I didn't mention in my first post, the DM wasn't just antagonistic about AI, which honestly is fair. They were antagonistic towards me and the other player. I don't remember the exact words, but at one point they said, "If you think using AI is justifiable, then you two are fucking fools." That part I do remember clearly is them calling us fools. At that point, I mentally folded. I didn't say anything. I just backed off. They were throwing insults and getting emotional, so I stayed quiet. I didn't want any part of that smoke. The AI player, however, didn't back down. He became defensive about his views on AI. The DM kept pushing back with their own. Eventually, both were hostile, shouting at each other, insult after insult. I completely tuned out. Their argument was going nowhere. In hindsight, I probably should have said something to try to de escalate things, but I was just too stunned. The tension was too high. It was awkward and overwhelming. At one point, I heard something like, "It's people like you that are the problem, you and OP." Let me remind you that I hadn't said a word during their entire shouting match, but they still dragged me into it, saying, "Fuck you too." They didn't literally say that, of course, but that's what it felt like. They wanted me to be a part of the fight, apparently. Eventually, it all went silent. The DM left, the AI player bailed, and like I mentioned at the first post, I bailed too. I wanted to clarify because people were debating who shot first, and it was turning into sort of a chicken and egg situation. So I thought it was worth me being specific as possible so others could come to a more informed conclusion. Originally, I wanted to stay impartial, but I probably made the DM look like the main antagonist. Maybe I still do in this update. I might be biased since they insulted me too, but from where I stand, both the DM and the player were being stubborn and hostile about their opinions. Another point that came up in the comment was how wild it was that we were all focused on character art before the session one even started. Honestly, I don't know if we were. We touched on the topic briefly as a side tangent, and that's when the AI opinions exploded. As far as I know, no one said art was required, it just wasn't clarified. For all I know, we could have played the whole campaign without portraits. Guess we'll never know. Oh, one last thing that just occurred to me while writing this. While there's a lot of debate on who is the one who started the shouting and such, I must say I might be the one who started the spark. Because I did make the suggestion to the AI player for the placeholder AI art. And also the one who suggested buying artwork before the session one that buying artwork before session one was a waste. So I do want to acknowledge that. Bless you. I've learned a thing or
Thank
two
you.
about AI from the comment section. So that's cool. It did shift my opinions a bit, but I'm not here to debate who's right or wrong. Just wanted to share my story. I don't think I'm qualified to make any final judgments. I do want to share one last opinion. You don't have to read this part if you don't want to. Some people said, "Who's going to find someone to commission or afford to do so?" Honestly, it's not as hard as it seems. If you search commissions on Twitter, Instagram, or DeviantArt, heck, there's probably a subreddit for it, you'll find plenty of artists. Sure, you could go big name artists and pay $500 to get exactly what you want, but I encourage you to look at smaller artists, ones with under 2K followers, 1K, 500, 100 followers, etc. They might be offering commissions for $15. And yeah, you get what you pay for, but some of those artists are really talented. If you see someone charging $15 and you can afford it, maybe toss them 20. It helps a lot. I like the ending there. Um,
Very much so.
so let's just get right into it.
Yeah. No use
So
beating around the bush here.
yeah,
Let's talk this incredibly divisive or divisive and
yeah, I gotta be
interesting thing.
honest. I gotta be honest. I think I agree with OP on pretty much everything said here. I like that they in their edit they took some sort of accountability as well.
Hmm.
Your original story not very good, but the update to the original story was great. You should have just done that the first time. Um,
Yeah, and I get like maybe this was happening too, like, I don't know how fresh it was when OP was making this post, like, if it had just happened or whatever, and maybe you were still kind of under the effects of like, whatever. But I mean, first off, what I will say, OP, just right off the bat, if you're watching this video at any point, I'm gonna straight up say like no, I don't think you were the asshole. Like if you're gonna do like an AITA post for this, I'm gonna say out the gate like no, I don't believe that you were the asshole here. Um, I will say overall, like if we had to choose anybody, most likely the biggest person who would be the quote unquote asshole would be the GM. Specifically because of how the GM, yeah, ended up kind of reacting and escalating things. Um, the reality of it is like OP, sure, it's I think it's true. I like Sam said, I do really love and appreciate and respect the fact that you were willing to take some accountability for your part that may have played, whether intentionally or not, in the situation, which I think predominantly it was not intentional. Obviously, like you know, maybe you could have stepped in when things began to escalate to try to de-escalate them a bit because you're shell shocked, which, I personally don't ever feel is a good thing. Like, I don't, people saying, well, I was stupefied or I was shell shocked or stunned. And it's like, well, yeah, but that doesn't absolve you from, having to try and take some action to handle a situation that's happening. Um, but I will definitely say, like to OP's point, the GM was also like clearly having a whole conniption about this. Like the GM was the first one, at least from the description here, he was the first one to shoot off the shots. Like he was the one that shot first in terms of like calling you guys names and whatever. And again, people can have strong opinions about AIR. Here's the thing. I don't necessarily disagree with the things that the GM was saying in regards to like, AI in today's current climate is incredibly unregulated. There's not a lot of like, real rules or guidelines for it yet to restrict a lot of abuse that it can cause, and it's only getting better every single day as it's gaining more, competency, efficiency, effectiveness. Like AI deepfakes are a crazy thing. Um,
Yeah.
And there's absolutely something to be said about, yeah, like AI, but on the same token, though, you got to understand as well that AI, people say that AI is a tool. And it's true. AI can absolutely open potentially a lot of doors for people who don't necessarily have that same skill set or ability that others do. And the thing being is like in terms of art, like drawing, anything like that, a lot of people might say, like, well, you can learn it. Eh, kind of, but not really either. Like, here's the thing. You can't, you can, sure, you can quote unquote go to a school or something and learn art, right? You can learn how to act. You can learn how to write or learn how to draw or paint or whatever. But you can't though, really. Like there's got to be something kind of just in you already that has that spark or that ability to be able to really embody and like actualize that, right? Like for me, for instance, I'm an actor. Like I always have been. Even from like a young age, like I've always loved doing that. I'm really good at it. Not to toot my own horn too much, but I enjoy it a lot. It's something that I feel a personal connection to and capacity for. And I love and that to be the case though, I can't fucking like draw for shit. Like ever. Like my handwriting even is like absolutely god awful. It's absolute chicken shit scratch. Like just and no matter how much I've trained and practiced and I've done it for a long time, like it's just something, I think it's just part of my tism, you know what I mean? Like I believe I have uh what's I always forget the term whenever I need to reference it, which is so inconvenient. But it's not the thing where I can't read because I can read well, I can read amazingly. I mean, yeah, you guys see it all the time here. I'm like a professional reader, but it's what is the term for that again?
What?
Dyslexia. That's the dyslexia. It's not dyslexia. I think mine is called dysgraphia, where I have issues like writing. But it also comes from like my hands are also just not like the steadiest, my micro control isn't the best overall. And so me, I would never really be able to really learn how to draw like amazingly and incredibly or like paint amazingly. Even like the way that I can kind of like as I can see all kinds of incredible, amazing, images and scenery in my mind, but I do not have the real capacity to like put it down on paper and everything, right? And so, in that regard, utilizing AI for me would absolutely be like a great tool to help with that because I could never truly necessarily like, and as OP was saying here, right, with the AI player, the concept they had in their minds, like AI might have been the best way to do it. And even OP was like, I don't even know if AI could do that either for like the strange, weird, abstract concept that they had. But AI might be the best because AI also can just kind of be weird and abstract too, in that sense. Um, but I don't know. What do you think about that, Sammy? Like in regards to, AI being used, as a tool. Yes, it is a tool, but that also a lot of people make the argument that like, well, tools can't do things for you though. Like tools don't just take away like having a tool usually makes the work easier. It doesn't necessarily just automatically do the work for you.
Yeah, I don't like AI overall. Yeah, you can use it as a tool. It can be helpful, and like that's fine. I'm vehemently against using it for art, just because I have friends that make art as a living.
Yeah,
Um,
same.
a lot of digital art, and so it has really fucked up their ability to live. Um,
It messes with their livelihood,
yeah,
where
and I hate that. And now that's just as much AI's fault as it is the people who use it to do that and try to make money off of it. So there's that. I don't think there's any harm in fucking around with an AI in your own time. Um,
and like even OP said, like, they weren't
yeah,
using it for
I don't think that matters. It really doesn't. Because like I have a friend of mine who likes using it to like make stuff about our D&D characters just for fun.
yeah,
Just to to see what it'll do.
yeah.
Which is fine. And like I like that because he's using it as a tool to express his love and interest in what we're doing.
Hmm.
And he's not posting it. He's not making anything out of it. He's just having fun.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know,
Hmm.
once it surpasses that, you know, once you're using it as like a a replacement is the problem. Now, I hate AI a lot, but there's no reason to act like that in a Discord call. Um,
Yeah, like I think
unless
again,
unless all of you feel the same way and you're just fucking ranting about it to each other. There's nothing wrong with that.
well,
But yeah.
at the very least, there always does have to be a certain amount of course of like just baseline respect and
Hmm.
consideration and just courtesy. Which again, like I said, the GM I think was the first one to kind of break the whole social contract with that. Like in terms of trying to be accusatory and hostile and name calling and stuff, where it's like, hey, yeah, you can have strong feelings about this, understandable, like we said, but you know OP, I think, made a decent, case for being like, hey, like, it definitely is a thing where it's like, oh, if we're gonna pay money to like, if you're saying if the GM's literally just like, oh, hey, well, you guys should find an artist to pay them for a commission or whatever of your stuff. It's like, well, here's also the thing, even before AI, like, there's all kinds of just free to use imagery and images and depictions and everything, like artwork online. You know, there are many things that people do just kind of post for open, fair use, explicitly for kind of this thing as well. And so it's like, okay, you can do that. So you don't technically have to pay somebody. Plus, it's like, yeah, like if you're gonna pay for like a commission of artwork and then, the game doesn't even really take off or it fizzles out within like a couple of sessions, and yeah, you just maybe lost 20 to 50 or however much money you're about to spend, which is, that's fair. Like you weren't necessarily coming in here trying to spend money on this because,
Yeah.
like that is the thing of like, commissioning artwork. Like, it is kind of a gamble in that regard. But I mean, at the same token, though, I guess you would always also just have that character's artwork, though. Like if you're just getting like personal portraits of a character, like you just have that as reference. Now you can just use that whenever you want with that character. Like you could bring it into other things too. Um, but again, it's not unreasonable or unfair for OP to have that kind of mindset and say like, hey, yeah, we can use AI art as a placeholder. And to be fair, like AI art also still isn't like the best in a lot of ways too. Like it still can be kind of weird and wonky and Like a bit again, a bit uncanny. There are some nice enough portraits here or there too, to be fair, but it's like, you know, I think me and Sammy are kind of in the similar thing where we both do have friends who are artists and try to make commission off of being artists. And the fact that AI, it's not even necessarily just that, it might take away potential commissions, but even AI has to get reference material from somewhere. So they are technically taking, or at least were, I don't know if they've tried to figure out a way around that now, but they were, taking depictions and art and everything that other artists have done and used, and using that as reference material to make whatever this person is asking of it now. Like
Yeah.
it's not just creating or fabricating its own thing. It's taking things from elsewhere without necessarily compensating the people that it's taking from. Especially if the AI is like it's a paid to use thing, right? If the AI was like, oh, hey, we have to pay to use this AI like as a subscription, and it's literally taking art from other artists to to give the thing that this person paid for it, then it's like, yeah, you should be giving that artist a commission of that too, or a percentage of that as well. Like that's where a lot of the biggest issues come from. Hey, it might be nice if it's like, okay, these AI studios or companies that do this, like, you know what? Why don't you hire on some artists to create reference material, right, for your AI, and then pay them a percentage of if their reference material is ever used, like that, that could be a potentially okay way around this. That way they still technically get at least some of the payout if like, if a person needs something more specifically, they need it quick or fast. But then there's also obviously the other aspect of that too, where you're like, how long until, they no longer need human artists at that point where they have all the quote unquote reference material that they need, and now humans or people become obsolete in that regard.
Yeah.
Which again, but then that's like, okay, you just destroyed a whole kind of industry for people to potentially get, you know, livelihoods from, like it's like, oh, now I can just like, and again, to be fair, a lot of it is like the AI, like I don't know if you've seen the same, but there's like a lot, there's like specifically even like AI like channels now on YouTube where like they're just pumping out these AI like videos of like really stupid, dumb, weird things. And they're apparently like super popular now. Like I saw it in a video recently myself about this. And it's kind of really fucked up because they're getting like a ton of traction. Like they're making a ton of money and they're pumping them out in like, a couple minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
Like one video only would take like a couple of minutes for the AI to pump out. And it makes no sense. It's a stupid, weird, uncanny, like weird, like video. It makes no sense. But it's like cute or it's something or whatever, and people just are eating it up for some reason. And it's like nobody like you're gonna again, you're gonna like, but again, I guess we've been doing that for a long time too. They're like prank channels that get like a ton of money from doing like from literally assaulting people and shit. Like, I don't know. Like this particular topic is just it's very complicated because, like I said, on one hand, I can understand a person being like, I don't have the personal capacity to draw or create art. And so like having this tool would obviously help me to be able to do
Hmm.
that. But then also, people who do have that capacity and ability, like to take away their potential to maybe make a living off of this skill that they have, and because they might not have a lot of other skills, or at least they feel like they don't, you know, that's kind of shitty. Um, but you say, oh, but it's like, oh, if you're poor, yeah, maybe you can't really afford to pay a commission for that either. Like, even if it is like 15, $20, sometimes to be fair, 15 or $20 just for a D&D character portrait or whatever, like that's, for some people that is still a decent amount. Like that's not chump change overall for some people. And so yeah, this
Yeah.
is I don't know, what do you think, bud? Like this is
I mean, no, it's
definitely.
it's really like it's unfortunate because it's a trend as well that I'm like, oh come on, like please let's not continue this. But I mean, people are gonna do it either way. The best you can kind of do is to not put up with it.
I mean, there just needs to be more, I think, deliberate like rules and regulations around its use. Any tool. Like again, it's a similar thing as like a gun, right? Like any weapon. Weapons technically are just tools, whether they be for tools for violence or for, whatever else. They are tools and they're only as useful as the people who utilize them. So, and also specifically about how they are used, like the regulations on how they can be used. Um, I mean, hell, we didn't even, get into the whole thing about, yeah, the AI deepfakes where people like literally can just make people look like real life people. Like that's highly problematic. Like that is not okay. Um, but yeah, overall, more specifically, back to the post itself, OP, if you ever see this, again, I would say you're not the asshole in my opinion here. I think that you were very reasonable. Maybe you were a little, uh, a little overwhelmed and stuff, and maybe you should have stood up for yourself a little bit more, just in my opinion, personally, because I don't think, once the DM started saying some shit, yeah, like you could have been like, whoa, hang on a minute, that's crossing a line, but overall, like that's not your fault. Like you didn't cause all of this. You were just being, again, reasonable. And the GM was not being as reasonable. The GM literally flew off the handle, and then the AI player kind of went with him. And you're absolutely right, and that this isn't, it's not okay. It's not all right. But I would also just like, I guess, to motivate and maybe help to incentivize you, like, just because something might be awkward and weird and like uncomfortable, don't let that freeze you up in those moments, because sometimes you're going to have to kind of rise to the occasion. Like if it's a really serious situation, like you got to be able to act and still be able to function. Like don't, try your best to try to use maybe this as a learning experience as well, to just be able to keep your wits about you, um, when you need to, in case situations arise where it's like much more of a risk or danger than this one was. Um, and that goes for everybody as well. Again, we know, like again, confrontation of any kind is just kind of inherently, uncomfortable, right? It's uncomfortable, it's difficult because, it's confrontation. It requires you to kind of face up and be present and be direct. And that's, that people can always feel like there might be a bit of a risk that comes with that. But that's kind of how it goes. And it's something that people, I think, need to do more overall. Anything else about this one, bud?
No, I think you nailed it.
All right. Go ahead, leave some comments below about you guys' thoughts on AI and its potential effect on, society, humans, and, people in general, and what you guys think. Hell, we didn't even talk about how people are like using it in school now, apparently, for things too. Like that's a whole thing I've heard about, which is, again, pretty crazy. But for now, let's move on to the next story of the day. Switch it up a little bit. This story is titled GM's Girlfriend Ruins Game Before It Starts by Infinite One Corridor. So, this is a relatively light-hearted horror story here, but it's still funny in hindsight. The setup for this story is pretty basic. I responded to an LFG post looking for Blades in the Dark players, and I meet with the GM and his girlfriend? Question mark? Who felt the need to sit in on the initial interview. Yeah, see, that's already a little bit of a red flag, maybe just a little bit. Not automatically, but kind of just a little strange. Not that big of a deal, generally, but it did strike me as odd, as it should be. Whatever, they both seem cool, and I pitched my character and talked about safety tools, lines, and veils specifically. Now, my character was using the slide playbook. Think kind of like a slinky spy character who is good at talking to people. And there are also moves for getting rolls or getting bonuses to rolls against targets that you have an intimate relationship with, etc. And they were specifically an exotic dancer and former ex-worker from a demonic homeland who used the dances that were used to pacify demons in his homeland as an act to entertain sleazy nobles. I wanted to play with the themes of commodifying and sexualizing important cultural arts and asking the question of whether his profession and skills were empowering or degrading. Okay, I see that. I see what you're going for. It's a very fascinating concept, OP, for sure. Fun stuff. Tends to fit in well in a grimy, crime-infested setting like Duskfall, which is the specific main setting of Blades in the Dark. However, the sexual themes of the character and the inclusion of X work as a theme can be touchy for some people. So I was careful to discuss this up front. This becomes important later. So I hop in the Discord for a pre-session zero to brainstorm, and the GM and his girlfriend spend the entire time talking with an old friend of theirs, also a player in the game, about a Minecraft server that had a lot of drama going on. At this point, I'm mildly annoyed, but since session zero was scheduled for later that week, I shrugged it off and prepped for that. Now, during session zero, I said I was on a time crunch, since I had a doctor's appointment, but I was assured that we would be able to get things done in a few hours. Now, for the first 45 minutes to an hour of session zero, GM's girlfriend, and the GM's other friend talk about friend group drama. And at some point during this conversation, I finally just say that I have my appointment coming up, so could we please talk about character concepts and what crew playbook everyone was interested in? The other players agreed, and everyone has a character concept prepped and ready to roll. Everyone except for the GM's girlfriend, funny enough. Who could have saw that coming? Now, apparently, she had the vague idea of like playing a mad scientist who reanimates corpses. And that was it. Okay, so this can be fleshed out through brainstorming. Yeah. The group seems to be into the idea of playing assassins. So we brainstorm a group dynamic and throw some bones at GM's girlfriend about how her character could use like poisons and contraptions to pull off some assassinations. The addition is necessary because just reanimating the dead is, well, kind of a whole process in Blades in the Dark, and her character would need to be able to contribute to the group on missions. Now, the GM's girlfriend kind of just remains really quiet throughout this whole process, while the GM is contributing here and there. Then, GM's girlfriend suddenly just leaves the call, and then the GM leaves to go talk to his girlfriend while the rest of us just talk about character dynamics. 30 minutes later, our happy couple returns, and the GM says that not everyone in the group wanted to play as assassins, and we should try and be mindful of what everyone wants. Everyone else awkwardly moves on to be thieves or smugglers instead, then, but because of this diversion, we don't end up finishing session zero and have to continue at a later date. The next day, right before another game that I am GMing, I receive a message in the server from the GM's girlfriend about how she doesn't want any flirting between PCs and NPCs because, and I quote, "That's my boyfriend." Now, at this point, contemplating a lobotomy personally, I ask, so basically, I need to completely scrap my character concept. And she responds within, "Yeah, I guess so." I shrugged and dropped the campaign immediately. Good for you, OP. Stating that I was not interested in playing because of the poor communication and left the server. Ooh, ooh, I must say that was rather brilliantly done. Decisive, awareness, but also like very eloquently and concisely put. Oh, OP, I think I'm getting kind of goosebumps here. Like that's crazy.
What
Could
a
we be witnessing a tried and true adult individual, Sammy? That's whoa now, ladies and gentlemen. So then, GM's girlfriend proceeds to slide in my DMs, sending me 8 to 10 messages as I begin GMing for my friends, asking me why I was leaving and to answer her. I tell her that I am in a game at the moment and will respond later, and she proceeds to message me repeatedly throughout my session. Bye. Eventually, I message back stating that I did not like how my work on a character was basically thrown away on a boundary that I explicitly asked about multiple times and got a green flag on. That it was poor communication at best. I also said that I didn't like the GM's girlfriend behavior of leaving when she didn't like what everyone was going with for session zero, despite her refusal to actually communicate herself, and then having her boyfriend step in for her after she threw a tantrum. Oh, preach,
yeah.
OP. my friend. Good
That's awesome.
golly gosh, I believe this woman might need some aloe vera for the fucking solar-sized burn she has just been receiving. And not even in any way that was like he's only spitting facts right here. He's not even like hitting her with any kind of like just overt like insults. He's just spitting straight facts, literally, as the sequence of events that took place. Oh, it's beautiful. Mwah, chef's kiss. OP. Good God. She then proceeded to shoot back at me by accusing me of commandeering the game. Apparently, because I asked if we could move on from the damn Minecraft server drama and, I don't know, actually play the game, and said that it wasn't fair to expect her to be comfortable speaking in front of everyone, and that she didn't know she had to have a concept prepared. Is this her first TTRPG game? Is that what we're talking about here? Like, is that what we're seeing? At this point, I entered the conversation by saying that if she and also her boyfriend couldn't act like adults and communicate with everyone honestly, then they probably shouldn't bother playing RPGs because throwing tantrums and leaving instead of asking to change things is not acceptable at all. Period. Neither was randomly changing boundaries and forcing people to scrap concepts. I told her not to message me again, and that, my dear friends, was that. Later,
Oh,
I received a message from another player who also dropped the game asking me what happened, which was also kind of funny. I feel like I dodged a bullet on this one, and in hindsight, it's kind of funny. Oh, and an important addition, I was the youngest person involved in this story at age 22. If my memory serves me correctly, the GM and his girlfriend were in their mid 20s. Yeah, you can miss me with all that shit. End post. Mic drop. Mr. OP Infinite One Corridor, my
that's
friend.
that's amazing. I don't even like have a huge amount of comments on this because
Oh,
they just said, "Fuck this shit, I'm out."
he ripped her a new one with in the most like
But like
polite,
eloquently.
yeah, I mean the most polite and respectful way possible. Again, literally just relayed the sequence of events. That's it. Just called it. Just bare note like oh goodness gracious. That was this was beautiful. Like honestly, OP, if you ever see this, just God, all the respect to you, my friend. Like goodness gracious, fantastically done. If this is real, fantastically freaking done. Yeah, right off the cuff, OP literally said it themselves. Uh, when you are in a TTRPG game, first and foremost, and I hope to God that this was the girlfriend's first ever like game, because ain't nobody shows up to a game without a character concept at least thought of. Like here's the thing. No, you don't have to have like a completely fully actualized character and concept ready to go. Of course not. But if you're gonna play like hell, like especially a game like Blades in the Dark, which is very specific, you need to have at least some idea and concept of what you're trying to do here. Like, again, unless it's your first ever time playing, at which place you literally just ask. You say, hey, this is my first time ever playing, like, maybe not TTRPGs, but even just this particular kind of system and setting. Like, what would be a good, like, class or thing or whatever for me to do, right? Ask questions, be proactive, get involved.
Well, yeah, that would be the adult thing to do.
Well, or yeah, or at least the interested thing to do. Hell, we don't even say adult thing. But from looks of it, like she didn't even really seem that interested to play at all anyway. Like in terms of like the fact that GM, her and their friend just want to talk about shit completely irrelevant to the game, which again, don't get me wrong, it's not immediately like a bad thing to want to kind of just shoot the breeze with your friends for a little bit about stuff that's not part of the game. But if you're actively still creating the game, setting it up, trying to do this thing, like yeah, you have dedicated time. We talk about this all the time. If we said it once here, we will say it a gazillion, trillion, billion more times. This is a commitment. TTRPGs is an actual thing that you have to fucking do. And I've told Sammy and you guys as well. The first like long-term form campaign I was ever really a part of for 5th edition, like we ended up like getting a lot of players involved. Just because, we were like, oh, this is our first ever game. Like, we want people to have fun. Like, the more the merrier, sure. And we didn't necessarily understand like how aggravating and annoying and crazy it can get with a lot of people. But one of the biggest issues we had too was that a lot of those people weren't even really trying to play the game. Like they would just show up and then start talking about other things. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, look, don't get me wrong. I get it. You want to hang and chill out with everybody. That's cool. But we literally are setting aside time, this time here, today, this moment, to play this game, which takes time and deliberate execution. Like it's not just, you can't really just pick up some dice and start rolling and playing a D&D game, unfortunately. Like it just doesn't really work like that. It'd be cool if it did. And in some cases, if you're going to do like a one shot, maybe if you have like a pre-written like module or like a specific like, one shot wonders kind of thing or whatever, we can just kind of do that maybe. Even that still takes some prep and some scheduling for people. You know what I mean? So it's like, yo, coming to do the activity that you said you wanted to do, you know? It's cool to talk and catch up and interact, but this is the activity we all agreed to do today at this time together. So can we please just focus on that? Like and that's all that OP really said and did, which I think was fair because he also apparently gave them a decent amount of time to still catch up and interact, which like I said, that's fair, that's fine. We're all guilty of maybe getting a little distracted here or there. That's understandable. It's a human thing. It's okay. But at some point, like, yeah, be respectful and considerate of everyone else's time too, who are also there and maybe have other things going on. Like OP had a fucking doctor's appointment. So it's like, yo, can we get this thing going? Like, let's get back on track. Let's execute, What do you think, Sammy?
Well, that's exactly it. It's that simple. Like, be an adult. Be realistic with the people around you. Like, it's not. It really makes me sad that it's to that extent. It's
I
like
mean, I
just be an
also
adult. I don't know. Like
I
I
also
hate.
find it like so funny and ironic where she wants to talk about how she's like super shy and kind of like, yeah, like it's unfair to expect her to speak in front of a group of people. Were you not planning on role playing then at all? Like were you not planning to interact or talk but apparently she's more than comfortable like going in on somebody over text, apparently, when she has the safety of the internet to I guess protect her. I guess like she's more than happy to go off net then and speak her mind then, which is like, why weren't you this, more assertive like in session zero? Just talk and not even assertive in a douchebag way like you are now, but like just like why like what kind of person literally is like and just leaves without saying anything and then has their boyfriend go tell everybody, yeah, so not everybody, and they weren't even honest about the fact that it was just her who didn't want to do the whole assassin thing, but was like, yeah, not everybody wanted to be assassins, so if we could all just be considerate and conscious about what everyone wants, which is like, look, if everybody except for her basically agreed and was down for the assassin thing, look, I got newsflash for you, bro. TTRPG rules, the majority kind of just wins. It just is what it is. So you can, if and again, for better and for worse, right? If you have a majority of people who want to play like a really messed up murder hobo-y, like X, whatever crazy, stupid, fatal type flavored game,
Huh?
then it's like,
Fatal.
yeah, they can play that game. That's their right. They can do that. I ain't gonna be a part of that though. I'm gonna say deuces and get the F out. That's what I'm gonna do. Because I don't want nothing to do with that. But I'm not gonna tell them that they can't play it, because yeah, they can. That's their right. They have every right to do that if that's what they want to do. If that's what the majority of the group wants to do, good for you. I'm outie, bro. I'm gone. Just deuce, disappear like the fucking wind. You know what I'm saying? Gone. But so in this case, in this sense, if most people were cool with the assassin angle, she can either get with the program and figure out a character concept because she didn't even really seem to have one that she actually was that particularly tied to. But she just, look, I swear to God, if this is gonna be that goddamn stereotype of like, oh, a girl doesn't know like what she actually wants, but only knows what she doesn't want or doesn't like. That, oh my God, that shit would piss me the hell off. Where she's like, yeah, I don't want to be an assassin. It's like, okay, well, what do you really want to be? I don't know. I don't know, maybe like someone who like, I don't know, like raises the dead maybe or something. I don't know. Okay, well I mean that's not really viable unfortunately, like at least not like cuz that's like a whole thing. This isn't like a necromancer kind of game where you're just like magic or whatever, you know? So like maybe you want to be like an alchemist or something maybe, like, you know, that can still again, poisons or whatever, like that would technically fit with the assassin angle. Yeah, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be an assassin. Okay, so you want to raise the dead? Like, how would you raise the dead exactly? Like, would you kill them first and then raise them, or are you like like you work at a morgue or something? Are you an undertaker? Like what? Like, I don't know. You know, I don't know. Like, I don't
No.
know. You know, like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, okay, look, you can't just say what you don't know or what you don't want. All right, you need to actually have something on the background. Because if you don't have anything, then I'm sorry to tell you, love, shut the hell up and just go along with it then and see what happens. That's like, because that's progress then. All right. Otherwise, we're just sitting here in freaking limbo forever without any kind of decision. And not making a decision is still technically a decision. Okay. You can't just not freaking
Because
do
not
anything.
making a choice is indeed making a
Yes,
choice.
that is still making a choice. You are still choosing. If you're too scared, because like, well, what if I make the wrong decision? Then you are making the wrong decision now by not making a decision. I
Yeah.
got news for you. Not making a decision is almost always the wrong decision. Okay? Now that's not to be confused with the fact that, you know, sometimes you can make the decision to do nothing, and that's okay sometimes, right? Sometimes doing nothing is actually a great thing to do. Be like, you know what? No, I'm going to make the decision. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to let things play out. I'm just going to let things be whatever. I'm choosing not to directly interfere myself for whatever reason because either I don't have all of the necessary information. This is not my fight to have in this sense. Like it would not be beneficial for anybody for me to really get involved. Like for whatever reason you might be, that's different. It is different to consciously choose to do nothing and to simply choose to not make any decision at all. Very different things. And that the latter is almost always unequivocally wrong. That is always a bad thing to do. You need to make some kind of decision. All right? Something. Because at the very least, then you can have some progress. You're not just stuck in goddamn stasis and limbo for no reason, and bad shit's gonna happen anyway. Stop it. Stop it. Okay? Stop it. Like we said, like literally, be a goddamn adult. All right? Have some freaking backbone for God's sakes. Like something. Otherwise, don't participate or shut the hell up and just go along with it and see what happens. You know? It's not that
Yeah.
hard. It really isn't. It's not hard. Okay? I get it. You know, making decisions, like I said, coming out of your perfect safe zone, comfort zone, safe bubble. Yeah, it can be kind of scary. All right? But goddamn, bro. Like what okay, like just if you don't want to ever have any kind of possibility of harm or whatever, just stay in your house, in your room, in your bed forever. Just do that. Don't walk out, don't move, don't touch anything, you know. Just stay in your bed by yourself forever, and that might guarantee. Even then, there's still no guarantee. That's the real thing you have to realize, right? There are no guarantees in life, acolytes, apprentices, folks. It just isn't. No matter what you do, I don't care what anybody says. It's bullshit. All right? There are no guarantees. There just aren't. And that's okay. It's a good thing there aren't guarantees. Because if there were guarantees, that would also mean that there would be negative guarantees, right? That's the point you got to get into. You got to start thinking like, hey, yeah, something bad could happen, but you know what? Something really good could happen too if I gave this a shot, you know? Doesn't mean you should just do anything and everything without thinking about it. Obviously not. You should have some thought, but then you do have to make a decision about it. Do it or don't do it for a reason, consciously, not just because you're letting fear and paranoia rule your life. That is a huge no-no.
Yeah.
Anything else you got about this one, buddy?
Nope, I think you got it, bud.
Alrighty, let's go ahead and move on to the next one of the day then. Take it away.
Yeah, I have a little short one here by Sassy Finch.
Ooh, we love a
Um,
sassy Finch.
DM insta-kill characters because, quote, consequences.
Consequences.
A paid game. I believe it was about $15 a session. The
No.
DM said that actions had consequences. I thought, okay, fair. Quest was to transport a strangely coffin-shaped crate to someone deep in the forest with orders not to open it. Along the journey, we started to get hints that there was a living person in there. Concerned player opens the box. The recipient of the box, a giant creature, suddenly leaps down from the trees. The DM says the player's character is crushed underfoot instantly. New character sheet. One of our characters is arrested for something, and I don't remember it as being a matter of total character dickery. DM says if you all don't come up with a way to break him out from the jail in the next few minutes, he's going to die at dawn. We sit around trying to think of something. The character indeed dies at dawn. New character sheet. Our quest is to deliver a planet,
A Palantir.
a palantir. I don't know what that is. To deliver a palantir to someone. Worried, my character tries to take the palantir to the temple for advice. DM says my character feels a sense of dread and considers herself as she approaches the temple. Okay, I think this is obviously a deterrent, and I don't want yet another insta-kill. I have a history of attempts as well.
Oof.
Not knowing
Oof.
what else to do, we deliver the Palantir. DM shakes his head and says we just doom the world, so we go to an NPC to ask for advice. The DM tells us to explain in detail what we did. We do. The NPC scolds us harshly. We go to another NPC to ask for advice. The DM asks us to explain in detail what we did. I say, do we have to tell you again? He replies, you're not telling me, you're telling the NPC. Embarrassed, we tell the story again. The NPC scolds us harshly. The DM says we should reconsider telling a lot of people what happened. This was over the span of maybe 4 sessions tops. Mid-session, I packed up my stuff, said, I'm not having fun, so I'm leaving, and walked out. Consequences equal, I'm a fucking sadist. Oh, wow. Yeah, I hate insta-kills in D&D
No, I mean,
so, so, so much.
like, unless it is something like, unless we're talking about a whole keyless situation here, you know what I mean?
That's
Like,
different.
that's what I'm saying. Unless we're talking about a legitimate keyleth type situation, unless you pull a keyleth here, insta kills in any regard are just exceedingly not only unsatisfying, but just they just piss you the fuck off, bro. Like it's just like, oh my God. Like that's first and foremost, though, real quick, we're gonna touch upon this subject. OP, Sassy Finch, if you ever see this, we hope that you're doing a little bit better now. If you've had a little bit of a thing with sewer slide, as it were. We're very sorry to hear about that, and we hope that you were able to kind of move past that and get to that place, a little bit more security and fulfillment. But yeah, this right here, you made the right decision, OP. Like, hell, I'm surprised you stayed as long as you did, quite frankly, because the moment that first dude literally just like, oh, boom, he's immediately crushed by a giant creature. That's not how that works. Sorry to tell you. Giant creature, no matter how big it is, like unless you're like you, oh yeah, unless it's like you throw this crazy powerful, CR-18 foreshadowing creature at somebody, and like instantly like a giant or whatever, like a fucking what is it, a storm giant quintessence or whatever,
Yeah, that just lands on the party.
like and can actually deal their max HP plus technically double their max HP of damage instantly. Like you can't just outright kill somebody. Okay, that's not how that works. This is literally one of the boldest and just uninspired depictions of rocks fall, everybody dies. Like
Well, this doesn't seem like a very fun story to be a part of.
no, well, because this is clearly highly antagonistic. This is clearly a literal hostile and antagonistic GM who just wants to screw with them and put them down. And yeah, it looks to me like a legitimate sadist who's just like they're maybe getting off at screwing and just torturing their party with stuff. Because it's just like, what? Okay, we delivered the Palantir, and he just like shakes his head disappointed, like, well, you've doomed the world now. And we're like, what? You gave it to us. Like, this is the problem I have with these kinds of things, right? This isn't like a gotcha moment from the GM. It's not interesting when you literally force your party to do a apparent bad thing, like deliver a terrible, dark, horrible object or artifact somewhere. And because if they didn't do that, they would either die or be cursed or be whatever. Like, it's not fair. It's not interesting. It's not like you're not, testing a character or a party's like morality for that. You're
No, you're
forcing
not.
them to do it with your GM overpower. That's not. It's pathetic and pitiful a little bit. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's pathetic, pitiful, unoriginal, and just like ugh. It's just like ugh. It's a waste of time.
Like, oh, dang, this is a really entertaining game I have to pay to play in.
Yeah, and not just that. This is a paid game. Again, I have no problem with paid games. Again, I was a professional paid GM myself for a while. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's the point being is like, when you pay for a game, that is an experience, right? You're trying to pay for something that's, again, the point of TTRPGs is to have fun. Now, in this particular kind of format, right? Sometimes you're not always going to jive, right? It's that is a natural thing where if you got, a number of different people from all over different walks of life everywhere, you bring them together, it is not an uncommon thing where not everybody's going to gel and vibe with the group, right? Which, at that point, that's why it's also, I think, important for paid GMs to have refund policies in that regard of like, hey, if it's just something that you're not really feeling that you had to dip out for, because it's not your cup of tea and you were perfectly cordial, respectful, and nice, here you go. You can have your money back. Now, if you're gonna pay for a game and then think that that gives you carte blanche to just do whatever the hell you want, to just be an asshole, a disruptor, the most nasty, disgusting degenerate or whatever, I will newsflash, I'm gonna kick you out and I'm gonna keep your money at that point. Because
Yeah.
that was specifically outlined in the rules and regulations. If you break the rules and regulations here, like legitimately, then no, there's no refund for that. You
Well,
don't get to pay that and then act like an absolute asshat.
what I think is the most
Like,
egregious is like
maybe I will even still give your money back if that gets you to shut the hell up and leave me alone. Maybe.
what bothers me about this, the most egregious part to me at least, is like so you're basically forcing your players to just not engage with the own story you're trying to tell. That's the part that I just don't understand. So you want them to just deliver the casket, not ask any questions, not do anything. So you're gonna punish them for being interested in the story you're trying to put in front of them? Like, what's the point of that? If it was like an obvious ploy, okay, fine, I get it to a degree, but this is not that. This is just you're just being sadistic and punishing your players for something that's not like, what's the point? Why are they there then? What's the point of being an
Again, just
adventure?
for his sadistic pleasure, I guess. Just to keep belittling them and berating them for being dumb and incompetent and whatever. And it's just like, all right, bro. Like,
Oh, how fun.
yeah, this is just oodles and oodles of entertainment here. Thanks. Thanks. Wow, dude. Again, OP, I tip my hat to you that you were able to last for 4 sessions. Because I tell you what, I would not last probably for one after that immediately. Like I'd be like, as soon as he's like, he leaps from the trees and instantly crushes you, new character sheet. I'd be like, excuse me, that's not how that works. No, absolutely not. And if that's how you're saying it works in your game, then I'm gonna say, cool. Uh, I literally run over, stab him in the ball sack, rip him open. He dies of blood loss and immense pain. Again,
Oh,
because if we're
yeah.
not going to follow the rules of a game of engagement, we're just playing, make believe battle. And we can play make believe battle, but I'll tell you what, nobody's winning make believe battle.
Mm-mm.
That's not fun. We're not gonna have fun with that. Nobody's gonna win. It's not gonna be fun at all. So I would say maybe we should stick to the actual game of, D&D or TTRPG or whatever that have rules and regulations specifically for that. Hmm? What say you? No? Cool. All right. You're gone. The rest of you guys, you want to play something? I can DM something for us real quick.
Yeah, it's really not that complicated. You're gone.
Consequences my ass, bro. I hate this goddamn gotcha GM mentality that isn't actually anything. Like, you're not smart, okay? I'm sorry to tell you, because I know your mommy was probably gassing you up for your whole life, telling you that you're like the next freaking, Albert Einstein. You're not. All right, you aren't smart enough for the gotcha, so stop it, okay? The gotcha needs to be real earned, like really, really earned. And you're not it. You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy. Anything else you got, buddy?
No, I would say that that's
$15. I hope you got your refund, OP. That's my biggest. I hope you got a refund, and if not, well, I'm terribly sorry about that. That is unfortunate because that was god awful. All right, let's move on to the next story. We got this story is titled "GM throws a CR-18 creature at a level 3 party." Callback. Told you it was foreshadowing. By Yalda Baoth. Yalda Bauth 6. I don't really know how to pronounce that, but I hope I didn't butcher that too bad. Yalda Bauth 6. TLDR, GM throws a CR-18 creature at a group of level 3 to 5 characters, expects us to find a way to escape from it. Sorry if this is written weird. This is being written a few hours after the events of this taking place, and I don't think the people in my group use Reddit all too much, but this is mostly about the GM. So, a little context, if you will. This happened very recently, all in the span of about a week.
no. Don't do this.
A friend who I'll call Xavier invited me to a hardcore campaign. Now, Xavier is someone who's only run one other campaign in their life, to my knowledge, and that one was, weird to say the least. Now, he had done some discussion with the other 4 players, as it were, who'll be brought up in due time. Now, that this would be a one life type of thing. If your character died, well, you would be gone forever, 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 and ever. However, did not know this, and while yes, I could have maybe guessed it, it still would have been nice to know. So I make my character. Everything's fine. Session 1 begins. Now, to his credit, Xavier did say that someone was likely to die session 1. And no, I'm not making this because I'm salty. It's because I need somewhere to vent my anger with this. I can't blame him for saying characters would die. Yes, that's fair. But I am blaming him for pulling this bullshit. And, that's fair, OP. I mean, to be fair, like, if he was at least open about it, although you said you didn't know about it, like, ah, you know. It opens pretty normal. The group of 5 players and 5 NPCs all around the level 3 to 5 area. Then the first fight begins. Oh, maybe some kobolds or small goblins or something of that sort. You'd say, blissfully unaware. Nope, let me introduce you to La Chupacabra. Where, oh where do I begin? I know, let's talk about the NPC's reaction. The main leader of the group said to attack it, so everyone did. Want to guess how many immunities it had? Oh, well, these were actually legitimately tested and confirmed. 7! It had 7. Not resistances. Immunities. It was immune to force, radiant, psychic, fire, necrotic, piercing, and bludgeoning. Yes, magical and non-magical. Caveat that. So, the only 2 things that did work were acid, which luckily I could do thanks to being an Ascendant Dragon Monk. 2024, sure, but could use 5e subclasses. And slashing, which, weirdly enough, only a few people had. Now, see, I don't understand that. How do only a few people have slashing damage in a group of, like, 10? That doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, I guess it would depend on what they're using as weapons.
But I mean, if you have swords, any swords, like hell, even technically daggers, which sure it says you can do piercing, but daggers are also commonly known to be able to slice and dice and cut too. Like that's like
Well,
sure,
I
you
mean,
can
you're saying
stab.
if you're going rules as written, it's piercing damage.
Well, this guy clearly
Um,
isn't going rules as written. He's
I'm
making
just
a
I'm just saying you
but
got.
again, logically speaking, Sammy, would a does any dagger you know of not able to also cut as well as pierce? Because
Well,
technically, what about a sword, a long sword that has slashing damage? Is it not also technically able to pierce by stabbing, Samuel?
yeah. So Adam, I think you're looking at this the wrong way.
Oh, am I? Am I?
You're looking for things to make sense
Oh, yes,
in a
yes.
story on
Silly of
Reddit.
me.
Um, Look, if you're going rules as written,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
daggers, scimitars, short sword, or daggers, rapiers, one
Short
of the other
swords.
swords. No, that does slashing.
No, short swords are piercing.
Don't make me look this up.
You're literally trying to say like, oh, and I'm literally giving you this one. Like I
I'm
said,
not.
short swords are technically piercing damage.
I don't want to. Shut up. No, let me look at this. Let me just
Look,
look
I
at
use
this
short
real
swords a
fast.
lot, buddy, a lot, because I love dex builds, dual wield dex builds at that.
Daggers piercing, spear piercing. Where's short sword? Short sword is yeah, you're right. So
Yeah,
short sword's piercing,
short
scimitar
swords are piercing.
slashing, rapier's piercing, long sword slashing. Um,
Great swords are slashing.
yeah. So short swords and yeah. So I mean, I guess if everyone was short swords, rapiers.
Let me ask you a question. How often does anybody who wields short swords say that they're doing this with
It's
their
not
short
about that. I
swords?
think it's just the fact that
It's absolutely about that because that's
no,
what
I don't think
piercing would
so.
be,
Well,
Sammy.
no.
I
What I
get it with
mean is
daggers
like
because at least with
it's
daggers you
about
can go like
it's
this.
about I think it's about game balance more than anything else. It's just that. It doesn't have to be more than that.
Because also, what if you hit them with the flat of the blade, Sam? What if you hit them with the pommel? Are they going to be piercing damage or is that bludgeoning? Because there's nothing to really pierce with that.
It's non-lethal, I guess.
Yeah, but it's again bludgeoning. Wouldn't be piercing, wouldn't be slashing, you'd be bludgeoning. So
You
point
know,
being is just
you're
because
you're
it says
you're
that
arguing
that's
with
the
me.
primary damage type.
I would argue that for the sake of resistances, it would be I think it would be annoying because there are some monsters that have like just bludgeoning resistance, just slashing
Mm-hmm.
resistance, just
Yeah.
piercing.
Yeah.
I think it's unfair to the for the DM to not be able to be like, no, they resist that. Well, I'm stabbing with it, I'm not slashing with it. Eh, it's the weapon you picked. That's the kind of damage it does. I don't think there's anything intrinsically wrong with that, Adam. If you want to
I
run
mean,
your
I
game
do.
different from that, that's fine.
I think
But
there's
like
something intrinsically
if
wrong with that because that makes no sense.
it makes perfect
It
sense.
doesn't because literally you're gonna tell me then that oh, so it's immune to slashing but not to piercing. So I can literally just take another different blade and just use it this way instead, and it works. Samuel,
it's a
Sammy.
game. It's not real
Exactly,
life. It's not real
exactly,
life.
exactly. And it's a game though that's supposed to be based with some reality. Remember what we say here? The best
Oh,
games are a combination of the fantasy and the reality meeting in the middle.
you're
That's
putting a
what we
lot
want.
of, you're putting a lot. I mean,
That's what we
look,
want,
I
Sammy.
don't
That's
give a
that's
shit.
that's the sweet spot
In my
right
opinion,
there,
if someone's resistant to
right
piercing,
here.
if something's resistant to piercing, it would be resistant to slashing, but not necessarily bludgeoning. And I think vice versa. If it's resistant to bludgeoning, it probably isn't resistant to the other ones. So you could just do that if you want to meet in the middle somewhere. I don't think it's that big a deal, to be completely honest.
I mean, I
The
do.
amount of monsters that actually have resistances that poignant and that specific are like there's like none of them. Like to the point where it matters if you're stabbing with a knife or slashing with a knife. It doesn't really matter.
Well, it does because I mean, to be fair, like I'll rebuttal you this in terms of like how they even utilize it in games a lot of the time, right? Video games. There are different types of things because different type of damage based off of if you're bludgeoned, pierced, or slashed. Like I said, slashing is like bleed out, right? You get slashed in an area like about dozens of little cuts, like they're gonna start to kind of bleed out. It's gonna sting. It's gonna hurt. If you're pierced, but they're not necessarily gonna be able to get maybe as deep inside of a wound as piercing would, right? You pierce somebody, yeah, it's much deeper. You're gonna get like probably much more of those vital spots and like organs and hits that can be much more like damaging. Or even like, for instance, if you have armor, right? Person's wearing armor, slashing at it, unlikely it's really gonna do a lot of damage. So again, you're resistant to slashing damage, right? But you're not necessarily resistant to bludgeoning or piercing because you bludgeon someone with some like armor. The thing is like, yeah, the armor will take the brunt of it, but the reverberations, like the kinetic energy and force is still gonna kind of travel through that armor and maybe like mess or fuck you up a little bit. Same thing with piercing. Piercing is literally designed to try and pierce through armor to actually deal some legitimate more damage. That's a perfect sense right there of like, hey, yeah, when I can't slash at him, but I can pierce or bludgeon him.
Yeah.
Many things like that, and it
I
works
don't know,
perfectly
dude.
fine.
Like, I think it's tough because there's also like, ranged weapons can only do one type of damage. So I don't know. I feel like there you can make an argument for either side, whether you care that much about it or not, or whether it needs to be that. You
I
can
mean, to
make
be
the
fair,
argument
it
like
could
I'd make the
also.
argument you can't slash with a spear or a pike, really.
I mean, if it has an edge, you can slash with anything.
Sure, you can slash with anything, but is it as effective? I don't think so.
Fair.
Spears, not traditionally slashing weapons.
Sure, fair enough. But I mean, again, spears are predominantly thrusting, piercing weapons, 100% to utilize there. But again, halberds, freaking glaives,
Well, yeah, halberds are not piercing weapons; they're
yeah.
slashing weapons.
But you can off they are often made with a piercing blade on them though too.
Yeah, but
For
at that
both. They're
point, at that
technically
at
used to
that
be
point,
both.
so yes, at that point though, you're then just kind of defeating the purpose of.
Because here's another thing too. At this point, so many abilities also have the capacity to even like switch up elemental damage. Even you have certain spells
Yeah,
and things that just allow you to do that.
that's relatively newer. I also
I mean, no, you always had chromatic orb. You always had
well,
like
no, but like for like abilities to the extent it is now is on the newer
sure, I
side.
will agree. Yeah, it's
I
definitely
don't know. I'm
increased.
sure there's something that interacts with it in a way where I would say maybe just keep it as it's as is written, but
I
I
I
get what you're
always
saying.
subscribe to do what makes the most sense. Within reason, of course. Like, again, yes, we are playing in a fantasy world of magic, elves, orcs, dragons, and goblins, or whatever. So you gotta have a little bit of suspension of disbelief. But there's a difference between a suspension of disbelief and being like, why, why can't my sword also slash
Yeah, I guess it depends too. Like if you have a
if
certain
it can pierce?
wait,
Like
maybe it's built a certain way that it doesn't have an edge.
that
It's
doesn't make.
just
Then it would be
there.
bludgeoning. Then I could
No,
bludgeon them.
no, no, no. Like a rapier that's literally just it's a dueling sword, so it just has a point.
Sure. I mean,
Like
technically though,
there's
you
arguments
can
to be
slash with
made.
it though too. Like if
It,
it's you slash at
oh,
the edge of it.
that's not
You ever
slashing.
seen the Mask of Zorro?
I'm arguing that that's not slashing damage. I'm
How
arguing that that's still piercing damage.
you can't pierce somebody like
I'm
that's
not.
slashing, Sam.
No, it's not.
Piercing is straightforward. If you swipe, any swipe is a slash. It's not piercing.
I'm gonna say I disagree.
Oh, goodness gracious. Moving on. I think that's
You
about
brought
all
this
that
up.
that we have for this one. I didn't bring it up. This was brought up here, literally.
Did you? Oh, we still have more story, don't we?
Do we? Did we not finish it fully?
Oh, did we? I don't know.
No, actually, we didn't actually finish it fully. We
No.
just went off on a whole tangent there. Okay, yeah, perfect. Slashing, which only a few people had.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
Now, let's talk about movement. These might not be fully accurate, but whatever. It had a grounded speed of 120 feet. Jesus. And a fly speed of 60 feet. Combine that with its gimmick,
Wait, it's
and
flying speed. Oh, I guess that makes sense.
there's a chupa. Does it? It's a chupacabra. Nothing makes sense here, Sam. What's a chupacabra? From what
No,
I
it's a
recall,
devil
a
goat.
chupacabra is
They
almost
don't
like
have. They can't fly, so I don't know about that
like the
one. See,
Jersey Devil or like a werewolf-esque kind of creature. Like it's
I
more
didn't know
like a
chupacabras could fly. That's
they
mind
can't.
blowing.
Chupacabras in most iterations, there is no depiction of chupacabra flying.
I love that
They're
you
more
went.
like
They
wolves.
can't.
They're more like werewolves than
Well,
anything else. This
they're
is
like goats.
stupid. And, well, no, they eat goats. Now, let's talk about the big thing. It's gimmick. Normally, everything has a reaction, but only one. Maybe some legendary actions, but still. However, this guy, no, 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 no. He just doesn't give an F. Every time someone moves, every time it gets a reaction to then move and attack. No matter
Oh,
whose turn
nice.
it is. If they move, boom, reaction, attack. Fun fact, all of its attacks were also grapples as well, meaning if you were hit, then boom, you're pretty much taking all the damage to all your health and you're grappled. It's got a 10-foot range as well, mind you. Oh, yeah, there's also the thralls from the people it kills. That's always a fun part. More ads as it kills. Great. All right, let's go back to the NPCs. Nearby the fight, there was a dungeon, and Xavier said to us through the leader that the leader was the only one who knew how to get into the dungeon. However, when my friend tried to make a telepathic connection to the leader while he was grappled, he got literally nothing out of this. Apparently, Xavier put a rule in place where that if the leader was grappled, he couldn't speak, even telepathically, apparently.
Oh, nice.
Xavier then later said that other members of the group knew how to enter the dungeon too. And he said this after we had already spent ridiculous amount of time trying to figure out how to open it in the first place from the leader. So let's get to the main part of this whole thing. After a few turns, the chupacabra attacks me, right? Nothing out of the ordinary, sure, whatever. It hits, even after 2 rerolls, thanks to my lucky feat. Which, to be fair, it should only be 1 reroll. You can only use lucky once per roll. But whatever. I'm like, sure, whatever. I fail the saving throw, and it then deals 26 damage in 1 attack. And has me grappled on top of that. And fun fact, I had a max of 27 HP. So luckily, I managed to get out and try to play support, freeing other grappled teammates and such. Another few turns go by, and the situation is dire. Chupacabra is flying close to my friend in the sky, and they don't have the HP or AC to tank a hit. Along with that, they know how to get into the dungeon. So I do the only thing that I can. I distract it so that my friends can get inside. And of course, it kills me. Doesn't knock me down, just flat out murks me. 28 plus damage in 1 attack. It does work though, and my friends are able to get inside relatively safely, barring a few missing eyes and legs. Obviously, I'm upset. But, I think, hey, that's fine. I'll just make a new character. No big whoop. It's okay. Cool. Nope. Now I'm a spectator that can't do an effing thing. Great. Love to see that. Really, really effing love to see that. That's awesome. All right, look. Am I to blame for this partially? Yes. Yes, I admit that. I will take my part in this. After I saw it deal massive damage to me, I should have just run away. However, I also do still 100% blame Xavier a whole lot for this. Yes. Yes, I do. I'm going to go off on a tangent here, so just skip this whole next paragraph if you don't give a shit, okay? I like the idea of this gimmick, all right? And a lot of my friends agreed. An omnipresent killer able to be anywhere at once is a cool idea. Nah, I, as Adam, would question that just a tad. But,
Just a touch, you say?
however, when you make that thing have a 300 HP and immunities to 80% of the damage their group could do, yeah, it's not exactly a great recipe. I really like the idea of my character, but now, unless I can somehow make another person in my group do a campaign in the same setting, it's gone. Just fully gone with no chance to come back. And I mean, that's not true either, OP. You can literally just transfer that character to a different campaign, just simply rewrite some of the backstory and stuff for it to fit. It doesn't have to be that huge of a thing. I can understand a boss where you have to run away from it. But if you do that, say before that you have to run, not just thrust it upon your players. Which again, I disagree. That's not always the case. Sometimes your players do have to kind of figure that out, that they can't
Yeah.
fight this thing. You shouldn't always have to, as a GM, explicitly state to your players, hey, because that you as players should also kind of just be innately wary of anything that might look powerful or suspicious. Like, don't just assume you're always gonna fucking win an encounter. Now, I also think, however, on the other hand, you should also never assume that you can't win an encounter, right? You should never just make the assumption because again, GMs, yes, GMs, you should always put a way for your party to succeed in some way. Sometimes that is fleeing and escaping, but you still have to give them that ability to do so effectively and reasonably and fairly. Otherwise, yeah, make it so that they could possibly win the fight. It might cost them. It would be a hard fought fight. If they're unlucky or if they're not lucky, like they could get screwed over. But it's possible. They could defeat it if they get lucky enough, if they also strategize enough as well. Like you got to give your party the ability to succeed. It should never just be a situation where you cannot succeed in some way. Anyway, continuing on. Yeah, so instead of the leader telling us to fight it, he should have told us to run or to find a way to hide. I'm not a big fan of DMing, and I ran a total of maybe like 10 sessions, but hell, even I know something simple like that. Again, OP, it's not always the case. To the players, if you're reading this, I'm not blaming you. Just that a lack of info brought me here. To Xavier, balance test, dude. I get if you want to run a hard campaign, but make it fun hard, not just, oh, you moved, so it gets to deal 70 damage to you because it's bored. No, make it actually feasible. This being the operative word, feasible. If you want us to run, maybe say that. Don't overcomplicate things like this. And he didn't overcomplicate anything. It was, in fact, it was simplified to the utmost extreme. Like it was just a creature that could kill you. I'm sorry if this is ranty or just me throwing a pity party for myself and myself only. I just wanted to write all this down. Please go hard on me in the comments. I just need something to confirm if I'm not crazy and thinking that this is bullshit. Thanks. If I get more info, I'll make an edit to the page. In post. So again, right off the bat, OP, no, you're not crazy. This was absolutely some bullshit, 100%. You're not wrong. Again, like I said, I think maybe you're just in a kind of a reactionary state right now. And I will tell you, like, I get it. You're frustrated. Yeah, you were screwed over. The GM doesn't have to always tell you when something isn't winnable, though, right? That is something that sometimes a player should figure out because you, again, should be innately just wary because you should be aware you could potentially always die. Like even to an encounter where the GM thinks you could win or you should win, sometimes you get TPK'd. I've heard tons of stories about that kind of shit where you fight like, a group of 6 goblins and they just eviscerate your party because you rolled
Very
really
true.
badly or the goblins rolled really good. You know what I mean? Or I have literally been pretty close to TPKing a party that I GM for with goblins because yeah, I was strategic with how I use them, right? I utilized the terrain because they're short, so they can also, I think, bonus action hide / dash or whatever and stuff. So, I made it harder for them and I kept getting like crits and stuff just because I was rolling really well, Like it's like ironically, that's the only time I ever seem to roll stupidly well is when I'm GMing and in a combat with my party. To be fair though, I actually have been rolling much better lately in the campaign I'm a part of. Like I haven't actually been rolling garbage. Other people have, which is weird. It's so strange. Because the irony of it is too, Sam, is this is the party that I'm a sorcerer in too. So it's like I'm rolling like really well as a sorcerer.
It kind of sounds like you've passed your ailment on to everybody else.
Yeah, no, well, maybe I've if maybe I have finally shed the confines of my terrible, horrible hex, or just passed it off to other people. Maybe it was just one of those weird kind of like movies where it's like you're like, hey, I'm giving you the evil totem now because I'm tired. I can't do this anymore. You're taking it now.
I can't take this shit
I
no more.
can't take this shit no more, man. Wings of
That's
Redemption, classic. Uh, but yeah, what do you think of this one, buddy?
I just I mean, look, I I've thrown powerful monsters at a low level party before, albeit with there's some sort of nerf or situation that one makes it viable that that monster would even be there or be after the party. Two makes the encounter more doable, if not like how do I put it? It's not the encounter is not impossible. It's just dangerous. I had, I
Exactly.
was running what's it called?
Out of the Abyss.
Yeah. And I had an instance of, people were it was a random encounter roll, and God, they should have they should not have gotten through that encounter.
Yep.
That's just accurate. They really, they rolled the worst possible enemy they could because they were like
Mm,
level 4 or something like that, and
yeah.
they rolled two stone giants.
Ooh. Well, to be stone giants aren't
Not
inherently
stone. I don't
evil.
remember. No, no, no. Well, these were.
Ah, okay.
It expressed too aggressive. Like these were not. They were
Gotcha.
enemies. There was no getting out of it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Whether it's the miasma that was doing it, whether it was, for whatever reason, um, they had to fight this thing.
Yeah.
Now they could have run, but what saved them is they rolled two different. It was like two different things they could roll, and it was one of them was there's a status effect on the enemy. It was different things like there could be double the amount of enemies, half the amount of enemies. They're blind. Um, the two enemies are attacking each other, whatever.
Hmm.
They rolled that they were drunk.
Ah, okay.
So I did slightly nerf their health pools, but they fought and beat these like two CR9 or 10 monsters. Um, so I don't think they were basic stone. They were not basic stone giants. I don't remember what they were, but
Okay.
they, by all metrics,
Yeah, by
if
all
they had,
standards of
well,
measurement, they should have
literally,
been
I was
grounded to
looking at
dust.
people's health pools, and like one hit would have put someone down,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
not further than down.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and depending on how much health they had left, it could have outright killed a couple of them.
yeah.
But because they were drunk, they rolled everything at
At
disadvantage.
disadvantage. Yep, that's fair.
Their movement was fucked up. They had a chance to fall over.
Yep.
It gave the party opportunities of advantage and
Yeah.
flanking and other things that they wouldn't have had if it was just a normal fight. And they beat it. And I leveled them up
Yeah. That's
further,
awesome.
like earlier than they would have been
Yeah,
because I was
that's
like,
awesome.
you
Especially in Out of
guys
the Abyss. That's
you guys
so
stuck with it and went for it, and
you should be rewarded accordingly.
I think so.
Like that's beautifully done, Sammy. I love that. And again, it happened again based off of a lot of roles, but also the way you played it out though matters a lot. Because even if a GM is like, oh, they're drunk, like he could just be like, I guess, yeah, maybe they have disadvantage on attacks, maybe. Like doesn't necessarily do anything else. Like, their movement isn't necessarily hampered. Like, they just have disadvantage on attacks, or maybe even like, oh, well, because you're beating them up, that sobers them up immediately because they're
No,
taking
it
pain
was
now.
they were drunk for like a certain amount of hours,
Yeah, and it's like that's how that should go. Where it's
and
like,
they
yeah,
they saw them before the guys, like they noticed the enemies before the enemies noticed them.
makes
So there
sense.
was also like,
Prep
they were like
time.
they realized they were drunk. They saw the obvious weakness,
Yep. And they
and they took
preyed upon
advantage.
it.
They took
Yep.
advantage
They
of
took
it.
advantage of it. And that's, again, that's the thing. At that point, yeah, they could have still died. And they should at least be aware, like, yeah, fighting giants at that level, like, yeah, not stone giants even. I mean, hell, even hill giants might still be a bit for a level 4 party. But like, giants ain't nothing to sneeze at. Like that, they are deadly ass enemies. And it's
Yeah.
like doing that is like, yeah, you gotta like be ready for it, but they're not invincible. They are still able to take damage. They're still able to make mistakes. Again, you roll really well. It just goes to show. Perfect example right there, Sammy. Well done. This right here, where he's literally just like, oh yeah, the chupacabra he's literally immune. Like again, there is almost nothing in this game that has that many immunities. Literally. For a reason. Nothing. How can it be immune to fire? How can it be immune to piercing and bludgeoning damage? That doesn't make any sense. It's a chupacabra. How can it be immune to force? Almost nothing is immune to force damage, except for
No.
things that have innately force energy. There's almost nothing immune to. How can it be immune to force damage? How can it be immune to both radiant and necrotic damage? Hell, even Azamar are just resistant to each of those things. Like, what is it a cursed Azamar creature, soldier, or something? Like, what are we talking about here? Like, this is ridiculous. How is it immune to fire? It's got fur, For God's sakes. What are we talking about? It's not an elemental creature. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous.
It is.
I would have been perfectly fine if it was like at least resistant, right? If it was resistant to all of these things, sure. That would be far and away better. It would still be kind of crazy, but at least it'd be like, okay, yeah, this is clearly a crazy, powerful creature or whatever. I get it. It's resistant. Fair enough. Immune? Nigga, you need to get the fuck out of here, bro. I'm gonna have to reach across this table or through this goddamn screen and see how immune you are to slapping damage. Slap the goddamn taste out your mouth. Are you
Slapping
fucking
damage.
with me, bro? You tell me, is that bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing? That slap. Because I'm gonna add some fingernail of that too. We're gonna see what happens. Like, what are you talking about, bro?
What are
What
we
are we
doing?
talking about? All right. Anything else you got on this, man?
No.
All right, let's move on to the last one of the day, buddy.
All right, I got one more. It's a little short one. This is more of a question one than anything else. Um,
Oh, we love questions. We love questions here.
I love questions.
We love questions here at the Arcane Archive. Take notes, students. Remember, ask questions.
This is our group is it's how do I politely remove a nice guy but an annoying player from our online game by Zetsuclose dash
Zesty.
Zesty Close dash Sound 9854. Um, the problem, or our group has been playing online for about 4 months. They are a good group, and I think it's going well. We haven't missed a single session yet, and most of the players are constantly coming to me asking for extra lore, chatting about character arcs, etc.
Love it.
Yay!
Love that. Beautiful. Good for you, OP. Love that.
The problem is the bard.
Of course.
He still doesn't have a properly completed sheet. His backstory is barely a page, and somehow misses out on any named details when everyone else gave me sectioned and well organized multi-page character docs. He has missed out on about a third of the sessions when no one else has missed a single one. He takes days to respond on Discord, um, to group messages, if at all. I have offered to help with his sheet at least twice, and I have chased him for backstory details for months, no response. Oh, buddy. Um, Last session, he was clearly feeling left out because I let the fighter bring in their mercenary companion, or in their mercenary company, sorry. The druid, a fey spirit from their grove, and the rogues gang helped smuggle the party into the city.
Cool. I like it. You got some
But we have been talking
factions?
about these details for weeks, and each player told me ahead of session what they were planning. Because he has missed so many sessions, he feels left out of planning and often doesn't understand what's going on. He
Mm.
asked if his noble family, which I have zero details about, could live in this city and help somehow. I just responded, no. I am not going to improv an entire noble house mid-session, and moved on. I feel at this point it's frustrating for both us, and I don't have the energy for both of us, and I don't have the energy to handhold a player like this. He's a nice guy, and I don't want to just kick him out unceremoniously. But how do I politely explain that this isn't working? And honestly, I think it would be better if he just left.
Mm.
Now, the best way to do it would to just say, "Hey, I don't think this is working. You don't seem to put in the same amount of attention as everybody else." That's the
Well, I mean, first off, OP, I would just say again, if you ever see this, like, thank you for the story, or rather, I guess the query rather than a story. Um,
I'll give
well,
you
I
a
would
query.
say, like, how have you addressed this with him though at all? Like, have you talked to him about his kind of tardiness compared to everybody else, and like, like, have you attempted to address that in terms of maybe fixing that or helping that? Because obviously, if maybe that particular aspect was fixed the rest could just come much more naturally, Like, because if you haven't really talked with him about that at all, if you haven't addressed, like, hey, you're kind of not showing up, you're not doing a thing, like, like, again, I don't know how else he is in game. Like, I don't know if you haven't talked to him about it because, like, even when he is there, he's just not really great. He's just not really working or doing anything. Like, so I don't, maybe that's a factor, but like, yeah, like, I'm just like, I would first ask you if you haven't already to maybe talk with him about his tardiness and maybe showing up more. Like again, literally tell him what you felt here before you kick him out, give him the opportunity to maybe change or grow a little bit, to adjust himself. Because again, if he wants to have fun, if he wants to engage, and if he wants to be as involved as the other players, okay, give him that opportunity to do so. If he's not really coming up, then yeah, I say follow what Sam said and just tell him like, hey, look, I'm sorry. It's kind of just looking like maybe this isn't a great fit for you right now based off of your schedule and things going on for you. So it might it might just be better for you to find a different game or party that is better suited for your convenience or your life currently.
Yeah, I like it's hard because again, we've had this discussion before, um, about things like, trying to make people feel welcome at a table, or, many different things, which is basically just, we're trying to be as nice as possible to people, especially if they're also good people at a table. Um, because the last thing you want is to get rid of a nice person. Because it's not that they're a bad person is the reason why you don't want them there.
Yeah, they're just a terrible communicator apparently, which doesn't feel great either though. Like,
No, no, it doesn't. But like, it's not the worst. It's not the worst thing ever.
I mean, no, like it is not like an objectively like bad or horrendous quality, but it is like, it is one of the single greatest problems and issues that people have nowadays with any kind of relationship, though. If you want to be involved in a friendship, a romantic relationship, a familiar relationship, whatever, like you gotta be communicative and you gotta do the work to keep it alive. Is especially talking about with a D&D game, like we said, all these things, they're a commitment.
Yeah.
They're all a commitment. Like you need to be able to commit and to communicate is the biggest thing. Communicate. Like again, how hard is it just respond to some messages about things,
How hard is it to just talk with somebody about the character you seem to be invested in?
If you are, again, that is if you are. Like if you are really invested, then why aren't you doing the work to, talk about the character, Like to
Like,
to do this thing.
let's do the bare
Like,
minimum here.
yeah, if you're saying you're feeling left out, why aren't you putting in the work to like do the shit that the rest of the players are? The rest of the players are going like, hey, yeah, we're talking to the GM about the things that we want to happen with our character. If you want things to happen with your character, yeah, talk to the GM, send some messages, respond to the messages that the GM is sending you about your character and backstory. But you didn't, so no, you don't get that payout because the other players put in that effort and that work, so they get that reward and that payout. It's not that hard.
It's that simple.
It's that simple. And it's not that hard to just send a message. And again, if your life is really that chaotic and is consuming that much of you and stuff, where you can't really even do that, then maybe you probably shouldn't be playing then, is the reality of it. Because apparently you have other priorities that you have to contend with or deal with, and you can't really do anything else. And I don't know, it's interesting. I saw a video not too long ago about this girl who was talking about how she's like, 28 or something. So, again, a little higher up, where like she's in like her latter year of college actually. So she may have been more like 25, maybe 26. And how she's saying she doesn't have any friends, you know? Like she doesn't have any real friends at all. She doesn't really go out at all with people. Like she had friends in high school, like apparently a lot, but once, they all went their separate ways, different colleges or whatever, like, she even made like a few friends at college for a little bit, but then just didn't keep up with it. Didn't
Yeah.
didn't 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 keep it consistent. So she kind of fell out of touch, and she just feels exceedingly alone. And she's not blaming anybody but herself for that, because she's like she literally is acknowledging the fact that like she's like I just don't do it. Like I because again like she's like people send me messages, and I just don't respond. I just don't respond to it. Like unless it's like a week or something later, and I don't know why. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why.
Well,
Like
that's
I just.
that's a mental health issue.
But the issue being though is like you want to talk about mental health issue, well, I think that's the case for a lot of people, though. A lot of people just feel that way. And so at that point, you got to be like, okay, is it actually a mental health issue? And if so, then everybody's having it, which makes it, maybe it's a, it's a collective kind of problem where people are just, and again, I'm an introvert. You're an introvert. Like, that's the thing. Like, I completely understand. Like, you and I, we hate people.
Yeah, I don't know why I work in customer service, but here we
Well,
are.
because we have to for the most part. So it's because there's not a lot of other there's not a lot of other options at the moment, especially now with the job market. But like people suck. A lot of people, the vast majority of people kind of suck in a lot of ways, you know? And yet, people still, as humans, we still need to be able to connect with people. That's just a natural, necessary thing that we need. We are a group kind of, species. But so many people, even though they want that, like this girl, like this woman, they're not doing even the bare minimum to keep it going, to do it for themselves. And that's not anything new, I guess. A lot of people don't do half the things that they should be doing for themselves, that they need to be doing for themselves to be healthy and happy, It's like people just, yeah, I don't know what it is, because those people themselves don't even really seem to know what it is. They can't actually give like a legitimate reason for why they don't, get their shit together.
Yeah,
And it's
which is
sad, man.
unfortunate because it's like, you
Yeah, it
know,
really is. It's sad to see. Because again, like she was crying. She was crying in that video because
yeah,
she just felt so alone. And she recognized that it was but it was all kind of due to her own making. It was all due to her own kind of thing. And that was, it was really beautiful and brave of her. And I respected the hell out of her being able to acknowledge that. But it was also like frustrating, and not like, I wasn't frustrated like at her, but I was frustrated like almost for her. And then I'm like, yeah, like why, yeah, like why, like you're clearly in pain. You're clearly hurting. You're not happy. So why can't you just? And she was frustrated at herself. I mean, that was the thing. Like I was being frustrated like with her at herself because it was like, come on, like you can. You've done it before. You want this apparently really bad, where you feel this bad, and it didn't feel like it was performative. That was the thing. It didn't feel like she was being performative or just looking for attention or whatever online. Like it felt like a legitimate moment of just exceeding vulnerability and loneliness, where she was just like, I just have to, because she didn't start out crying. Like she got there eventually just from just talking about it. Like it's like she literally couldn't hold it anymore. Like she was just kind of breaking down. And it was like, wow, like I don't get it, man. I don't know why. I don't know why people are like that. I don't get it.
yeah. It's
Uh,
unfortunate.
so maybe, yeah, maybe this is kind of how it is with this too. Like maybe dude just can't do the things he needs to do to, get what he wants or what he needs, He just can't.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. It's weird and it's sad because again, she's not the only one. Like that seems to me to be an incredibly common thing now for a lot of people. And
yeah.
it kind of breaks your heart when you see it.
It's even worse now that the internet has taken such a hold over what social
Internet, yeah,
interaction
social
should be.
media, yeah.
Like that's the dangerous part is like people
Hell,
just
AI now,
yeah.
with like the AI like
People are like, yeah,
girlfriend,
no, I have
boyfriend bots.
friends. It's like, no, those aren't even real people.
Yeah, and yet they try to pretend to be real people, though. I mean, again, did you hear about that case about that kid who, Uh, well, anything else about this one, buddy?
No.
Well, take us out, my man.
Well, I we had a good set of discussions today. I'm happy
We
with it.
did actually. No, I like this a lot.
Thank you to everyone who stuck with us and hopefully you all enjoyed our conversations today. Um, but just remember, even if it has nothing to do with what we talked about today, feel free to leave a comment. Um, We appreciate it. We're gonna keep trying to do this, and then hopefully enjoy doing it as well. But if you don't have anything else to add, Adam, I think we're done for the day.
No, I think that's about it, y'all. Like we said, if you guys, please do just kind of leave a comment down below. And you know what? Even if you don't, just give a thought to some of the things that we talked about today, in regards to loneliness, in regards to, finding the strength inside of yourself to kind of do the things that you need to do for yourself, for others, whatever, for the betterment and in terms of your health and your personal stability, you know. Um, Especially nowadays, things are getting, things are getting kind of rougher and rougher out there lately, in a lot of ways. So it's kind of, it's been way past the time for people to start really getting their shit together in a lot of ways. So, I wish all of you acolytes and apprentices, the best, the courage and the strength to start really doing that, you know. Um, and we'd love to hear from you guys about your thoughts on this and some ideas or ways that you guys think that, you might be able to do that or for other people to kind of do that, And with that, I think that's about it, buddy.
Yeah. Take care of yourselves.
Thank you guys so much, and we'll see y'all next time when
Yeah.
we dive back down to that archive.
See
Bye,
y'all.
y'all.